Hello and welcome. Thanks for spending some time with us today as we talk about 21 tips to building a successful inside sales program. My name's Chad Collette. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Ledgeview Partners, where we help businesses transform their approach to sales, marketing, and customer service by aligning these teams to focus on improving their customers' experience and providing management with metrics through technology to evaluate the success. For those of you on the webinar today that are familiar with Ledgeview Partners, you may know that we are a Microsoft Dynamics CRM Gold partner, a Microsoft Office 365 partner, and a Salesforce Silver partner. But what you may not realize is that we also provide inside sales and customer care consulting and outsourcing. That is how we have a great resource here internally from Ledgeview Partners joining us today to talk about tips to building a successful inside sales program that include trends, success factors, what to watch out for, key metrics and dashboards, and more that can help you achieve sales goals that you really only thought possible from an outside sales team. Now, before I introduce our presenter, I have just a couple of quick housekeeping items to cover. First, I want to mention that today's webinar is being recorded and will be available on demand after the live session. Everyone today will receive a follow-up email after the webinar is complete with a link to access the presentation. And we encourage you to share this within your company and your professional network. Now, to ensure the best audio quality, we have everyone in listen-only mode. But if you have a question, please submit those in the question pane of your GoToWebinar control panel. We have a lot of information to get through in just 30 minutes today, but we guarantee we'll follow up offline to answer every question that's submitted, so fire them at us. Now it's time to introduce our presenter for today, Greg Dove. Greg is the General Manager of the Inside Sales and Customer Care Outsourcing and Consulting Program at Ledgeview Partners. With over 15 years of sales management and development experience, Greg is also an active inside sales consultant and trainer for companies throughout North and South America. Greg, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Chad, and thank you everyone for joining our webinar today. With that, I'm going to get started because we have a very full list of topics to cover today. So today we're going to give you tips in the areas of understanding the role of inside sales. We'll also explore some of the facts and success factors. I've found through my time that a lot of people have some confusion around the role of customer service and inside sales, so we'll review the differences there. We're going to talk about some myths and some pitfalls, some key benefits. We'll share a few best practices. We'll also dive into how CRM is a must for inside sales, and at the end we'll go through a couple case studies to give you an idea of what typical inside sales results look like and what you can expect. So some of the inside sales facts that I've gathered today to share with you, I think will be surprising to many of you. Inside sales is growing 300% faster than outside sales. And this fact comes from our good friend at InsideSales.com, Dave Elkington. And when I came across this stat, I was very surprised because I've been working with inside sales for over 18 years, and to see that it is still growing at that rate is very, very interesting to me. But I think what it shows is while many companies adopted and understood the benefits early on, it is still a very present trend, and it'll continue to evolve as people understand how inside sales can become part of your successful sales organization. And one of the reasons for that, when you look at this, should be obvious. The average cost of an inside sales call is $50 versus the cost of a typical outside sales call of $308. So, we're looking at a cost savings, but we're also talking about efficiency here. So think of the typical salesman driving in his car to see 4 or 5, maybe on a good day, 6 customers. Well, a good inside salesperson should do that in the first half hour of their day. So there's a very good reason to support inside sales in your organization. In 2007, it took an average of 3.6 attempts to reach a prospect. Now that takes 8 attempts. And I think one of the clear things here is as we become more and more busy in our day-to-day activities as a business, it's harder for people to get a hold of you. So you know what, instead of having 8 attempts from an outside salesperson, maybe leverage inside sales to cut that in half and get to them more efficiently. And this statistic right here, an average salesperson only makes 2 attempts to reach a prospect. Well, according to the last slide, that means we're falling 6 short of actually getting a hold of someone. So you better have an effective strategy to get through to those prospects. Otherwise, you're not going to be reaching your full potential in your sales. 80 to 90% of all B2B transactions will be conducted, in the next 3 years. They're going to have high-end solutions that require some level of consultation, and I'm seeing that even in my business today. I do a lot of video conferencing, and as you see, more complex products being sold via inside sales, it just makes sense that video conferencing and webinars will become a more useful tool for this application. The business model depends upon inside sales to succeed. I can tell you 18 years ago when I started in inside sales, many people did not believe this. But what it really shows is you need to have inside sales as part of your inside sales team to reach your revenue and margin goals. And it's not just a flavor of the day or something you should try for a while and then move on. It needs to be a part of your overall sales organization to achieve the goals that you want to. So some of the key benefits of inside sales. We touched on this a little bit, but it's going to create a more efficient sales organization for you. It just makes sense that a person sitting in their office making calls out day to customers or prospecting or doing lead generation is going to have a much higher success rate when it comes to contacting customers or prospects and also selling, because they can hit many more on a typical day. Inside sales reps are readily available. So if you're a customer and you're calling your sales rep, typically that sales rep may be out on the road and they're calling on 3 or 4 other customers. Maybe they're in an area where they don't have cell coverage. So it's hard to get a hold of them. With inside sales, you can usually get a hold of your rep right away, and if you can't, you leave them a voicemail, and odds are they're going to get back to you within a couple of hours. So they're much more readily available. Typically, an inside sales implementation or a properly implemented team is going to have smaller customers that are transferred in for those inside sales reps to handle. And what that does is it renews your relationships with your smaller customers, because odds are there was some level of neglect when those same customers were handled by a field sales rep because those weren't the biggest accounts. So as a result of that, you're going to increase your customer satisfaction, and you're going to identify more opportunities to sell other products or services, which is ultimately going to help you increase your sales. A trend that's been around for a while with inside sales with bigger companies is the assisted selling model. So if you can picture one of your top outside sales reps who calls on some of your larger, more complex customers, if you can have an inside sales rep help them, it's going to make better use of the outside rep's time because they can focus on the top-to-top relationships, and that inside sales rep can support and any of the administrative and also work with the procurement or the buyers for that company, and that should also free up that rep to maybe work with other larger strategic customers more frequently. So that's pairing inside sales and outside sales. I know as sales managers or people involved with sales, there's always vacant territories, vacations, leave of absences, things that are hard to overcome. But inside sales can become a great resource to handle those for you. And if you don't have your own inside sales team to pick up the slack there, it might be a good idea for you to reach out and then talk to a staffing agency and see if they have someone who can come in on a temporary basis and cover that territory for you. When you have a good, high-performing inside sales team, information is acquired and relayed very quickly. So I see it every day. I have reps calling throughout the United States, and one of them will find something out, that's going on in the marketplace, and they can quickly share that with another person, and now everyone's informed. And maybe you get your sales manager involved, and then they share that information to the outside sales department. So it's a good way to really quickly react to the ever-changing marketplace. And then obviously, what everyone's looking to do, increase gross profit, incremental sales for all customers. And that's one of the #1 goals of inside sales. So customer service and inside sales, you may wonder the slide is why we're going to cover this topic, but one of the biggest, I think, misunderstandings that I come across is that a good customer service rep is considered an inside salesperson, or they even, sometimes think, well, they'd make a great inside salesperson. And while that may happen sometimes, in my experience, there's a pretty big difference in the position. So when you're looking at customer service, I always kind of picture the, the mother or the grandma type figure who's there to help, with the customer service issues. So maybe they received the wrong product or they're unhappy, so you're there to kind of comfort them. And these positions typically have someone where there's not a degree required. It's usually entry level, kind of an hourly position. And these people are great at what they do, but they're more about listening and being reactive and really showing some empathy towards the customer. And due to the nature, they're taking lots of calls, so it's very transactional. And usually it's basic product and industry knowledge. Now, if you have a customer service person that's been with you for 10 years, certainly that product knowledge can grow, but typically it's not as in-depth as a salesperson. So let's compare that to a typical inside sales rep. They usually have a minimum of an associate degree. It's a skilled position, and quite often it's a position that these people have chosen as their career. They are integrated fully into your sales team if you want to be successful. I have on their salaried position, and while this has been predominantly what I've seen throughout my career, I do want to throw a little bit of caution to that because things are changing. So I would recommend talking to your human resource department, but more and more inside sales positions are going to the hourly wage. So you'll want to research that. But again, the skill sets here, they're more tenacious and aggressive. They're proactive and probing, so they're asking the right questions to surface those needs, and then having the in-depth product knowledge to go ahead and close that sale by satisfying those needs to the customer. So I think if you look at the two, it's pretty clear that it's a much different position. So some of the things you should watch out for when you're building an inside sales team, or even if you have one, don't let inside sales become a dumping ground. And what I would tell you, when inside sales is launched and it's not successful, it's usually for a couple reasons. And one of the big ones is people create an inside sales team, and then they have a project that they need done. So they look and they say, oh, let's have inside sales do that. And that's great, and it might be a good use of resources, but it is not in the best interests of that team, because if you're holding those inside sales reps to metrics and key performance indicators and growing the business, they cannot be sidetracked. So my advice is put them in that position and keep them there. And that goes real nicely with the third point, which is don't hire from within and expect them to continue to perform their previous duties, because that's not a good situation either. So if you're going to hire someone from within to do inside sales, backfill their position first and then put them in their new role. Prospecting and inside sales, that's always a topic that a lot of people get confused about or have a lot of passion about. And the point here is, if you're building an inside sales team and you're transferring smaller transactional accounts into that base, make sure you stabilize those customers and exhaust all of your selling opportunities with them before you begin prospecting. Prospecting is great, and I know a lot of sales managers, they think of inside sales and they get all excited because they're thinking, okay, they're bringing me new business, new business, new business. And that's certainly possible, but stabilize your existing business first and then look at prospecting. And also, be aware that someone who's really good at managing existing accounts, they might not be good at lead generation or prospecting, and the same for being a good prospector versus handling accounts. So watch out for that. And then if we're going to set up inside sales the right way, make sure that you don't treat them any differently than an outside rep. When I am asked to define inside sales, my definition is it's the same as outside sales, but they're doing it over the phone. So make sure that you train them and treat them the same as outside rep. So some of the best practices, like I just mentioned, inside sales should replicate the duties of outside sales. So what you're expecting from your outside salespeople, what you're having them do, don't treat inside sales any differently. They should be charged with the same things. Implement an inside sales supervisor. So it's very important if you have 1, 2, or 6 inside sales reps that you have someone overlooking what they're doing. So if you have 1 or 2 reps, you don't need to hire a full-time supervisor, but you may want to take one of them and make them a working supervisor. So maybe they're spending 25% of their time on managing, and the other 75% they can be doing their own, account calls or prospecting. And then rule of thumb for me, once you start to get to 5 or 6 people in inside sales, you need a dedicated supervisor to manage everything. Minimum of 2 years inside sales experience. This is a must for me. And why I'm so adamant about that is because odds are, if you're hiring someone that has 2 years experience, they know what it's like in inside sales, and they're choosing that as a career. And that's really important, because if you take someone who's done outside sales and you bring them and put them in a cube or an office and ask them to make calls for 8 hours a day, they're used to the freedom of being on the road, and that may not be a good fit for them. So always hire someone who has previous experience. Again, when you look at your sales organization, you need to make sure you're incorporating inside sales to it. So invite them to the same sales meetings. Invite them to the same trainings, and really make them part of that org. And if you do that correctly, you'll find that your rate of success is much higher. All companies that are involved in sales have a sales process. So make sure you have that, and make sure your inside salespeople understand it. But I would also define and use a sales process that is more along the lines of defining the outcomes of what you want to happen on that call, and then creating a process or flow so your reps can adhere to that process. Metrics and goals, just like they're important for field sales, they're just as important for an inside salesperson. So define what those metrics and growth goals are, and monitor them weekly, monthly. Set those goals up and make sure they're hitting them, because that's what salespeople want, whether you're inside or outside. You want to know what your goals are so you can go after them. And finally, one great thing about inside sales and how to utilize it, I really am a strong proponent of having all new incoming leads, whether it be a phone call, an email, or a web request, send those through inside sales and let them qualify them. One, they're going to be readily available, like we talked about, but there's a possibility that inside sales rep can go through, qualify it, and they may actually be able to close the business. And if it turns out that maybe it's complex or a really big account, then once they qualify it, they can turn it over to outside sales. So we talked a little bit about the sales process, and I think a good sales process will be followed by some scripts or checklists to make sure we're complying with what our process is. So you'll want to have some really tight parameters around the introduction into the phone call, and what you're going to do, and when you're going to transition to the actual sales part of the call, and then how you're going to follow up or recap everything. Voicemail. It's really important to have a good standardized voicemail. I don't want people to sound scripted, but I think we need to have some must-haves within the voicemail, and then allow them to use their personality. But if you use a good voicemail, your odds of getting a return call are much better. And then creating an opportunity. You should have clear-cut go-to questions to ask of your customers to get them to start to feed you information that you can use to identify opportunities. And then once you identify that opportunity, it only makes sense to have the next steps laid out. So ask this question, follow this process. That way you're being very efficient with your time, and you're all in sync on what an opportunity is and how to get there. Typically, when you look at inside sales territory, it can be anywhere from 500 to 750 customers. So you should segment your customers based on revenue, gross profit, volume, whatever it is, and then create a contact strategy to align with that, because you should contact your larger customers more than your smaller ones. If you're going to put metrics and growth goals together, create a bonus and incentive plan that incentivizes them to go after that, just like outside sales. Utilize a CRM system to drive your sales process. I do a lot of work consulting and also have customers that outsource their inside sales function to us, and I have a pretty hard rule that I will not engage in either one of those activities unless they have a CRM in place, because it is that important. And then look at your accounts. Transfer accounts in and out of inside sales when it makes sense. Maybe an inside sales account is getting too big, or maybe an outside sales account is doing good business, but whether you stop there once a week or once a year, they're not going to order more. Be aware of that and transfer those accounts, and I would recommend doing that at least on an annual basis. So CRM for inside sales. Again, it's an absolute must, and some of the reasons why our CRM is going to drive your sales process and make sure that everyone is adhering to that process. And that's not just for inside sales, that applies to outside sales as well. So CRM is a must. When you're handling 500 to 700 accounts, you need a tool to help you track activities and to manage all your follow-up activities, because you can't make a commitment to a customer and then not follow through on that. And when you're handling hundreds of customers, it's important to have something to help you. So that's what CRM does. If you use it right, when you come in at 8 o'clock in the morning, your whole day should be managed out right in front of you, so you can just go right through the day and accomplish everything that you can do. And opportunities, pipeline management, obviously all a huge component of CRM. Here's some dashboards, and these might be a little hard to see, but what it really is it's showing you some views that are really important from a management perspective and from an inside sales rep's perspective. So as an inside sales rep, if you're being held to a certain amount of activities per day, or you have certain growth goals, wouldn't it be nice if you can look at your own dashboard every day and see how you're trending towards that? If I'm an inside sales rep, I'm going to demand that. So this accomplishes that. And then from a management perspective, you can look at what's important to you. What's in my pipeline? How many cross-selling opportunities have I had? How are we doing on those? And then it will also give you a view of your competitive landscape. So if you can identify all of your opportunities, look at the ones that you win, but also look at the ones you lose and understand why you're losing them and to who you're losing those sales to, and then you can take that data and go back and rethink your approach. And finally, mass communication through CRM is great. If you have multiple customers in various industries, you can go in and do a report and understand how many customers you have in a specific industry, and then you can send specific messaging or sales material to them. And then also, if you're looking at prospecting or doing lead generation, any type of mass communication that you can do through CRM is only going to enhance your success rate. So resistance to inside sales. I feel like I've been fighting this battle for a long time, and when it comes up, it's usually for some of the reasons here. A lot of people think inside sales is telemarketing, and I hope I've shown to you that inside sales is not telemarketing. It's not that call you get at 6 o'clock when you're sitting down to eat dinner. Inside sales is a approach that mirrors your outside sales and helps grow your customers and make you more successful. People think inside sales is only good for finding new accounts. It is a good avenue for finding new accounts, but it's also a great strategy for handling smaller, more transactional customers. Hear this one all the time. My product or sales cycle is too complex. I can see why people think that, but please cross that off your list, because I've seen inside sales be successful from medical supplies to lubricants to complicated services, and as long as you can create the processes to follow, it can be sold through inside sales. People don't have experience in inside sales, so there's different areas you can go to get that, but don't let that be a reason not to do it. No qualified candidates in my area. I hear that all the time, but really, if you put a good ad out asking for inside salespeople, I think you'll be amazed at how many people are actually out there. And again, we talked about outside sales. We don't want to create a us versus them, so just go about explaining to your outside sales team that inside sales is going to take some of the smaller accounts. That should free them up to be more strategic, to maybe get new accounts, and ultimately inside sales may identify some more customers for them. So it's all about communication. So real quickly here, a couple of case studies. I was working with a Fortune 50 company that was looking to have some of their smaller accounts moved into inside sales, and the whole thought was they didn't want to grow them, they just didn't want to lose them. So we created a inside sales team of 3 account managers and 1 customer service rep, and our beginning volume was about 13 million. We achieved 103% of our goal in the first year, and after that they found more accounts to transfer in because inside sales became more of a strategic part of that overall sales organization, and we ended up with over 220 million in annual sales volume. That wasn't new business, but it was more business that was transferred into inside sales, and we had great success, had 22 quarters of straight goal achievement. One final case study, we were working with a company that was looking to augment their sales development and lead generation efforts, and they had some turnover and a few things that went on, so they reached out and we created a team for them that focused on sales development and activation. So activation is really working with national contracts and helping various branches understand what the program is about and hopefully speeding up the process to getting on that national contract. So some of the results we had, 14% of the qualified opportunity, we converted over 14% of opportunities with a good clean list. Where the list wasn't so clean, we had about a 7% rate, average 100 decision maker contacts per close to 700 attempts, and to date the program has generated an ROI well over 40%. So another example of how inside sales can help you, and again this is in more of the lead generation and sales development area. Finally, it's okay to ask for help. We understand not everyone's an expert at inside sales and you shouldn't be. So we can help you do training and consulting and full account management, prospecting, customer care, call coaching, establishing best practices. Those are all services that we offer here at Ledgeview. And we also do offer outsourced solutions to your full account management, prospecting, lead generation, sales development, and account activation. So don't feel like you're the only one who doesn't understand it. Reach out and we can definitely help you. And finally, you know, one of our great customers here at Ledgeview gave us this quote, and the way Ledgeview Partners takes care of their customers is phenomenal. And I thank Diana Jackson from Alexis for that quote, but it really shows that when you partner with Ledgeview, we want to become part of your organization because we take it personally and we want you to succeed. And if you have any questions, here's my contact information. Feel free to reach out. Thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate it. And Chad, I'll send it back to you.
Thanks a lot, Greg. That's a lot of information and I think well over 21 tips, so really appreciate a lot of good stuff. So we're at the top of the hour here. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Watch your email inbox for a recording of this information. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Greg or any of us here at Ledgeview Partners and look for some of our other webinars. Thank you very much and have a great day.